Alright guys, today I thought I'd do a couple different videos on basically how my system's growing. We won't be focusing much on what's growing today. In fact, that bed there has a lot of stuff growing into winter vegetables. It's about time for them to come out and be replaced with some more summer stuff, since I think we're past our last big cold snap. But I wanted to talk about just how this whole system works a little bit. Show you some of my other systems, talk about another one I'm going to be building. Maybe an expansion to this one, I'm not sure yet. Just to give you some different ideas, because there's a lot of ways to skin a cat when it comes to aquaponics. And this is a true aquaponic system. Some of the other systems I'll show you today are more really an aquatic system with aquaponics elements. But this is my primary food production system on the property, other than the trees and stuff like that that are more perennial in the ground crops. So what we have here are two 50-gallon Rubbermaid tubs, and those are wicking beds. They're both capped with expanded shell. A lot of people say this is way too small a material to do a wicking bed with, and they'd be right if you filled the whole thing with it. They're filled to about right there with standard lava rock, actually the coarsest lava rock I could find. It actually works better if you're going to cap it. And then they got, you know, about a 2-inch cap of the expanded shell. Works perfectly. And to get a good feed of water down to the bottom, this is one of the hacks that I came up with. There's a piece of 2-inch pipe here, and then my delivery line's coming in there. I like that because it lets me come in and look. If you do aquaponics for any length of time, you will find that you will get clogged valves and you'll have to open them up and reset them. Since I know where they go, it's fine, but what I'm going to probably do to help people that might watch my system for me is put a Sharpie mark right where that valve needs to be adjusted the way that I want it, and that way people can come in, don't not know anything, just open it wide open for a couple seconds so let it clean out and put it right back to that line. That's probably a good little hack. The way this system works, everything returns to this solid separator. We have a pump in here. It's a Lanchez dirty water pump. After trying a bunch of different pumps, it's the one we settled on. And we have a solid separator down here. It's basically a cone shaped like this, made out of metal. And its stuff is drawn up from the bottom where the return lines are, front and back. Solids fall to the bottom, and that's our drain to drain it out. About once a week we drain out the solids. Composed of two 330-gallon IBCs. And if that was that, it would still produce a lot of food, but that's not that. This is a rather unique setup. It's something anybody could do, but you probably won't do it with this big giant aviary. This is my Quail Aviary. It's also where my little chickens live. Hey, little chickens. And the problem with these guys is they're so daggone tame and friendly, you have to be careful you don't step on them. Anyway, I have one deep water bed in this system, and then I have, 8 wicking beds. And I decided I was actually going to go to all wicking beds in here. I decided to keep one deep water bed. Yeah, you can grow a lot of lettuce with it in the winter and stuff like that, but the real reason is I have a bunch of little bluegills in there. This is my bait tank when we go fishing and I need bait. I have like a couple hundred little bitty bluegills about that big in there. I feed them enough to keep them alive. They came from a pond where they're pretty much stunted for life. They won't ever get big. We don't use them in the main system, so but they do add nutrient to the whole system. And then we have these, so this is pretty simple here. You can see how this one works really easily. And the wicking beds pretty much do the same thing, just under the soil. You have a water delivery, and I have that delivering pretty hot because it provides oxygen. I have all the rest of the water being delivered slowly because you just need to trickle through. You got an overflow. Come out the bottom of the Rubbermaid tub. These are 100-gallon tubs. And then they're manifolded into a 2-inch return line. That goes back to that system, back into the greenhouse. And then my wicking beds are just, you know, extensions of this system. And when people say aquaponics isn't sustainable, I don't think they understand what they're saying, because this is all off that one system I showed you. This is all running off one pump. And as you can see, we're in a transition. We've got broccoli there. I'm starting to cut out my broccoli plants and make room. Sure, they could have gave me some shoots, but it's time to move on to, you know, summer plantings. Yesterday I came, I got some cool plants that I'm thinking about this year to try out new. This is hairy gourd. I also have a plant called flowering gourd. That right there is a little bitty vining plant called mouse melon. It's like a gherkin and little bitty watermelons. Tomatoes are already banging. Nasturtium's coming up. But you can see there's kale. Beets in between the kale. Tomatillos. Right? So, and each one of these tanks is filled up about 8 to 10 inches with lava rock. Let me pull back, you know, about right there. And then that returns down through this manifold. And, you know, they have a delivery pipe, just like the ebb and flow beds. And then in the center here, we have an overflow with a media excluder. Maybe it's easier to show you this one here because that one's all grown in. So down in there, there's a stand-up pipe and it's overflowing. I mean, if you stuck a bell siphon on it, would turn it into an ebb and flow if you want it. And that's an interesting idea. What if you had a low ebb and flow? That'd be a pain in the butt. That would take away all the beauty of doing a wicking bed, because these things are foolproof. Let's say that the water stops flowing. Nothing really happens for a few days at least, because there's enough water down there to sustain the system. You can put these on timers, but by having them kind of on this trickle, like that, right there is how they're flowing, you get that flow through of the system. But we could definitely put these on timers, and it may be the case that we end up having to, just with solenoids, because what I've thought about doing is I have all that space right there. And the slope is a gentle upward slope. So the further I go this way, the lower I can be with these beds. Now, one of the limitations in here was to be able to work in here, deal with the birds in here, we had to have these individual stands. This is not efficient, but it worked for the situation. Going forward, if I want to extend things, all I need is 2 lines of rails mounted to, let's say, 4x4s in the ground. And I could take it all the way to my neighbor's fence. I could add another 50 feet to this. So then I got to think about, well, how much can I throw water with that pump? And if I'm only asking for this, I probably could, but it's going to be probably difficult to actually put in, let's say, another 10 downspouts, because those beds can go pretty close together on a single track, right? Much more efficient, less building material. And if that's the case, I could put them on a level. So we put our stakes in the ground and we level our cross beams, so all those tanks are level. I could set the same level in every tank and only deliver to one, and it would cascade through all the way down. So that's another way to improve efficiency. But that's the basics of how this system works. And again, people say, well, you know, you can't build soil in an aquaponic system. Oh, really? I can't build soil? Gee, the hell is that then? I don't understand. I can't build soil, right? It looks like pretty nice soil to me, and this soil gets better every year. These birds in here, you know, I throw them occasionally a scrap or two, but basically these guys compost everything from the house and everything from in here. Really, really simple. I pick up whatever stuff in the house they're gonna get that day on the way out, a little bowl we keep on the table, and I dump it in that bin right there. And while I'm doing my work or anything I prune out, as I'm on my way back out, I drop it in that bin. When that bin gets full, we'll add another bin under here, and we'll leave that one for a while, let them work it down a little bit more. Then we'll take it out, we'll cover it, wet it down and cover it with straw, and we'll leave it alone for 6 months. You have beautiful, beautiful compost with no work whatsoever. And then we take that compost, little handfuls of it, we put it back in these beds. So this system is completely creating its own fertility, not just from the fish, but from the scraps from the system, from the birds. And you know what we have? Very little pest pressure in here. Why? Because if you're a pest and you get in here, you better fly in and land straight on top. Because if you come across the bottom, either one of those little quails or one of the little chickens, like my speckled little mama hen here, right? Speckled mama, yeah, you gonna scratch? Yeah, she's gonna eat you. I can have worms in these beds in North Texas without fire ants invading them because they can't ever get up a head of steam. So that's how this system works. The other systems are actually a lot more simple, and we'll show you them in another video.